Hello, scrapbookers. This is Megan, and I am back today with my second layout in my round 4 homemade kit series. So this layout is about a week late. I apologize about that. This past couple weeks has been super crazy, and I just never had time to narrate this voiceover, so I'm finally getting to it. Okay, so what I decided to do for this layout, I wanted to use all of these wood veneer, and I thought it would be fun to just kind of place them on the top and on the bottom of this layout with these photos. These are some photos of my kids giving their dad one of those fun candy posters for Father's Day. Then I am just deciding I don't really like that idea using the wood veneer. So I turn it over and I think, well, maybe I will use a different side. And then I'm like, okay, maybe I should use some different photos. So I'm going to pull out some photos from my middle son Brennan's baptism, which was in 2014. So a couple years ago. And I am going to decide to use some of these baptism photos. And I really, really like these two photos that I have of Brennan with his grandpa. His grandpa is the one that baptized him. And so here I am just going to cut down the photos. I'm writing the date on the back because I am horrible with remembering the dates, but I like to make sure that I have the dates on my scrapbook pages just because I just like to have that. Okay, so now here I am just cutting down that second photo, and I was okay with them being two different sizes. So here I'm going to mat them just on some scrap white paper. And I'm just going to do a small little mat around the photo just to help the photo stand out a little bit more. And then I'm going to get to work layering papers and trying to figure out where exactly I want the photos to go. Because I was thinking that I probably wanted to leave make the title A Day to Remember, which is down there on the bottom. I wasn't sure at the time if I wanted to leave today on the layout or not. And I am going to actually end up leaving it. And it works out really well. I really like how it turns out. Normally, I don't like using papers for my background that already have, embellishment clusters or titles and sayings and things on them. So this was a really different layout for me, or background for me to use. Okay, so here I just have a bunch of scrap papers from the kit. So I'm going to cut them down. Some of them are already cut up for me, so I don't have to cut them down. But this red one I am going to cut down. I'm going to end up cutting it in half because it wasn't long enough. It wasn't as long as I wanted it to be. So here I'm just kind of fiddling around with the layers. And this is where I'm going to decide to do a bigger layer, but I don't really like the way that looks. So I'm going to go back to the little one, or the skinnier paper that I cut, and then I cut it in half. And I am going to start gluing the photos down to the papers because I just need to get them down because I keep changing my mind. So here I glue down the photos, and then I'm going to glue down the red chevron paper here. And I kept this layout really, really simple. I just liked the idea of just a little bit of paper layers behind the photos and then a couple extra clusters. So here I am going to add another layer of that yellow piece of paper. And that is going to be it for the layers behind the photos. So now I am going to start thinking about the other clusters that I want to do. You can see me kind of tapping my fingers there. And I had this wood veneer that I decided to cut in half. And I am going to put it on one piece of it on both sides of the photo cluster, and then I also had this thread, sorry, I can't talk, that I wanted to include on the layout. So I'm going to put that behind there. I'm also going to use some of this Scotch 3M tape, or it's 3D tape. And I'm just going to put that down just for a little bit of a dimension behind the photos because of the wood veneer. Okay, so now here I have the picture all backed. Sorry about that. I can't think of my words today. And now I'm going to lay it down on top of that thread. And the thread kept moving and I kept getting really frustrated. So I'm going to decide to put it down with some of these pop zots, or 3D zots, I think is what they're called. And that works out pretty good. So I put down the photos, maybe. So this is where I decided, okay, you know what, I'm just going to glue this onto here right where I want it so then it doesn't move around when I'm trying to place it down on top of it. And so I'm going to put the wood veneer frame on both sides in the exact spot that I want them. And then I'm going to place it down on top of the thread. And that worked out really well. Maybe not. Oh, I forgot to put the glue zots behind the wood veneer frame. So that's why I had to pick it up. So that's what I'm doing there. Sometimes zots are my best friend and sometimes they aren't, because sometimes they come off really easily and sometimes they don't. So that's what I was doing there. And now that little photo cluster mat is all done, I'm going to cut off some more of this thread and I'm going to put it down there on the bottom right hand corner, and I'm going to kind of fuss with that for a little bit. I'm not as good at doing the whole thread cluster thing that Missy Whidden does, so sometimes it takes me a while to get it to look okay. But I do like the way it turned out in the end. Okay, so now I am going to make a couple more clusters. So there's this one up in the top left-hand corner up by that banner, the Today banner. And here I'm going to put some washi tape right there underneath that frame. And I think that's all that I use of the washi tape. And then I'm going to pull out this little frame and I'm going to put it up there in that top left hand corner cluster. I'm thinking that I need to add another cluster as well as another one of these wood veneer frames. So I'm also going to add one of these wood buttons, or not wood buttons, sorry, it was chipboard. It was a chipboard button collection from My Mind's Eye, I believe. And then I'm also going to put this banner up there in that cluster. And then I'm going to add some thread and that cluster will be done. I added another one of these chipboard pieces on the photo. And then I'm going to set it aside and I'm going to add the thread here in that left-hand corner. Okay, so now here I am going to pull out some scrap papers and I'm going to put them down in the bottom left-hand corner. I have this one that has a bunch of numbers on it. It has from 0 to 8, and since when you are 8 years old, I'm a Mormon, and that is when children are baptized, when they're 8. So I decided to cut off the number 9 and just have it stop at the number 8. Then I'm just cutting up a couple more pieces of paper and I'm going to glue them all down in this bottom left-hand corner right there. I'm sorry if you can hear my children. It is a Sunday. They are home and they are just outside my room in the living room watching TV, and of course they have to, fight over what TV shows to watch, so I apologize if you can hear them. Okay, so now I put those papers down there on the bottom, and I'm also going to cut up this wood veneer, and I'm going to place it there as part of the cluster. I don't really like how there's all of those patterns there on the far left-hand side, but I did want it to be there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue it to this teal plus sign paper. And then I'm going to just glue it down onto the background. Okay, so now you can see that I glued down the wood veneer to that paper, and I'm just cutting around it. And then I'm going to glue it down, like I said. I'm going to add some of the the thread. And then this layout will pretty much be done. I am going to do some journaling. I'm not going to do it on the video because I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to say, so I'm going to do that later, and then you can see the journaling in the close-up photos at the end of the layout. So here I'm placing down the thread, and that is going to be the finishing touch. Thanks so much for watching today. I hope that you will come back on Tuesday, and hopefully I'll have another layout up for you, and you can see mine as well as the other ladies. I will leave links below to the other ladies' layouts, and I hope that you are having a great week. Thanks for stopping by.